the conversation that we are getting into this morning is the state of the nation. But even as we do that, there's certain details that we will not then be able to leave behind. Cyprian Nyamwamu is the convener of the Kenya Bora Twitakayo, and he's here with us this morning. It's been a minute, but he's here. Good morning, Cyprian.
We thank God I'm alive, and I've been following you, so I know you are well. I'm very well, and I'm very, very happy that you have provided the platform for us to have a conversation again. Thank you very much.
Thank you for doing that. Dennis, this week takes us to a place you may have been to, and we'd love to hear your interpretation of this proverb.
Today we are in Gambia.
Yes.
The land of Kunta Kinte Island, which is formerly known as James Island. Why? Because it is recognized as a site and a historical waypoint during the transatlantic slave trade. 80% of the country is into the agriculture sector, and their staple is groundnuts. Right? So these are people who would live very well with people from Oma Bay and Migori County, because also they do grow groundnuts. But let's go to the proverb. If a donkey kicks you and you kick back, you are both donkeys. How would you interpret it?
Even before we talk about the donkeys, groundnuts are supposed to be very good, essential for good health.
Yes, protein
and reproductivity. You've heard of the I relate this to what we call if a madman was to steal your clothes and you start chasing after that madman when you are naked, actually people will believe that you are the madman.
Yes.
So that if the donkey is the one which has kicked you and you also kick it back, both of you are actually donkeys. The call here, in my view, especially for our country right now, is that if you want to bring sanity to a country like ours, don't do things the way the politicians are doing it, because they are actually kicking us so hard. If we were to retaliate and take the goons that they have brought to us back to them, this whole place will be on fire, and people will not know who really is the patriot who loves the country and who is not. So we have to remain the patriots of our country, as provided for in Article 10 of our Constitution, even as we are changing the conditions for us to have better leaders.
Well said.
Wow. Can't argue with that.
Can't argue with that.
We're looking at the state of the nation and the different areas around this state that we ought to. It's very difficult to then look at the state of the nation in one direction. First of all, the thing that seems to be on everybody's mind is the economic state of things. From your point of view, what does it look like? And if there are any tweaks to be made at the moment, where should those be? We can't also run away from the fact that you've been involved in quite a lot in terms of, making sure that things run well, or keeping people accountable, or at the very least ensuring that people are aware of the responsibility of accountability in this country. So that sets the premise for why this conversation, heralded by you, then is important. The economic state of things.
You see, the economy of our country is actually the state of our nation. Let me begin from the state of our nation, then I focus on the economy. The state of our nation is looked at from four main lenses, and we've called them the 4 Ds, if you may. First of all is the democratic faithfulness, the democratic faithfulness of our country as the first pillar of the state of the nation. The second one is what we call development consolidation, where the economy is a major part. The third is what we call devolution and participation. And the fourth D is demographic wellness. Demographic wellness. Those are the 4 pillars of reviewing the state of the nation. For those who are taking notes, the 4 Ds are, first of all, democratic faithfulness. Secondly is development consolidation. And number 3 is devolution and participation. And finally, demographic wellness of the nation. I'll skip the democratic faithfulness because that's the political one, which normally takes us far away. Let's start from the developmental, consolidation, where the economy falls under. The whole policy of the government, not just this Ruto administration, but actually starting from the Uhuru administration where they were with the Ruto, the key feature has become odious debt. We have borrowed, we have been running what Kwame Owino calls the credit card to buy things that we cannot afford. And we've destroyed the foundation of the economy. And Ruto has actually worsened the situation as it is today. Because any family which goes to the supermarket to consume things it cannot afford is going to become a slave to the people who are loaning it money. And because of this binge borrowing, the economy is 12.3 trillion in debt. And it is estimated that nearly 60% of that debt is actually corrupt debt, what we call odious debt. And because of this borrowing, we have been running a very huge deficit in the budget. So what have we done? We have pushed up the taxes so that we can raise money to pay the people we have borrowed from. So a lot of people do not know how bad these two presidents have been on the economy. That is why we go back to the Kibaki years. When Kibaki handed over government to Uhuru Kenyatta in 2013, we were only 1.8 trillion in debt, only. Under the Kibaki administration, for every 100 shillings we borrowed, we collected, 14 shillings went to debt payment and repayments and servicing.
Under Kibaki.
Under Kibaki. Only 14%. 14 shillings out of every 100. Uhuru pushed that up to about 70 something. For every 100 shillings you collected under Uhuru, for every 100, 72 was going to debt servicing. Ruto pushed it to about 78, and last year they managed to actually restructure that debt by borrowing more expensive debt to pay off for debt that was due last year. So they brought it down from 78 to 69, where it is now. So round it off at 70. So for every 100 shillings that we collect, 70 shillings goes to debt repayment. Now, the problem with that is that then you are left with 30 shillings out of 100 to pay for education, to pay for healthcare, to pay for roads, to pay for social security, to pay for the military and the security and everything. Pay salaries. You know you can't.
It's not enough.
You cannot operate because that takes you now to a massive hole that is in the economy. And so what has happened, which is what David Ndii refuses to explain to the people, is that services have been getting worse. That is why schools are in distress. That's why the healthcare is in distress. That is why every sector is in trouble. That's why potholes are becoming bigger everywhere. And so, what President Ruto has decided to do is that after 2024 June, with the Gen Z revolution, he realized that no, you have to look for a formula of operating outside the constitution. So now he has been advised by David Ndii and the team to create an infrastructure fund to borrow money and spend outside Parliament. Mm-hmm. Because if you bring it to Parliament, you are going to raise the taxes and the revolution is going to come back. So keep increasing the debt by creating a formula of borrowing money and raise taxes without Parliament approving.
But it's still going to come back, Cyprian, because
it
people
is,
still have
it
to
is
pay.
Here. You see, when you are paying debt, it is quiet and it's treasury which is doing it. So by the time Ruto gets out of government, we are going to realize that for every 100 shillings we collect, we will be probably at 93, 94. Mm-hmm. That is the problem with what is happening right now. Mm. Because the borrowing is not through Parliament. Mm. So you are not feeling it, but you are paying for it, and it is increasing. By the time Ruto steps out, he is going to leave this country in a hole that the next generation will be unable to come out of. And that is, he thinks it's political genius, but actually it is going to destroy the goose. It's going to kill the goose that lays the golden egg. Because you are not going to have any manufacturing, you are not going to create any jobs in this country. The inequality is going to grow. And therefore, I want to summarize this way. The economy is in shambles. And all this corruption that you are seeing through this so-called G2G and everything else is actually putting bandages on a bleeding wound, so that you can be able to go beyond the 2027 election. That's all that President Ruto is doing. He's basically adding more bandages on the wound so that the wound is not seen, so that he is able to survive the 2027 election. And the opposition, that's what is very unfortunate about this country, is that the people in the opposition are completely unable to explain to the country the hole into which William Ruto's administration is digging the country into. They are incapable in their rallies to explain to the country how badly the state of the economy is getting. And once the economy collapses, these other three pillars that we were speaking about will collapse. The democratic, the demographic, and the devolution. They will all collapse because the economy has collapsed.
Cyprian, you've mentioned that 60% of Kenya's debt today is odious. And here we're looking at an infrastructure fund that has been created to bypass Parliament. And with that then, if already with the laws that we do have and the Act of Parliament that requires every money that we borrow to come through the consolidated fund, you go back to Eurobond that never came to the country. One asks the question, how exposed then will be the country in terms of odious debt that will be accumulating because there is a fund that has been created to bypass Parliament?
The word you have used there is very important. How exposed will the country be? We will be naked. Totally exposed, no gate, no fence. This country is going to face... I want to request Kenyans to slow down on this one-term nonsense that is going on. What we need very urgently is not even another protest in June. What we need is actually an open-air national conference on the state of the economy. where all sectors of our country, young people, women, traders, manufacturers, government, members of parliament, we can all sit under one tent, probably at KICC, even if it's at Nyayo Stadium. We need to sit down and explain to ourselves that forget about elections.
Yeah.
Because you will change Ruto, but what are you going to inherit from this the completely destroyed? So we need to sit so that we ask ourselves, who do we owe money? What was the money borrowed for? How much have we repaid? Is it sustainable? The answer is that it is not sustainable. We are going to destroy our economy, and our children are going to eat us alive because we were reckless, because we did not stop Ruto from continuing to borrow more and more and sinking the country deeper and deeper into the hole.
The questions you're asking seem to all be in the National Debt Register, that rather should be. Who borrowed? Who did you borrow from?
What for?
What did you borrow for?
How much have you
Whom
repaid?
do we owe? How much
Have we
you
repaid? What's the balance?
And what is the balance? All of those questions should be in the National Debt Register, which should be public and up to date. So you're saying that May 2026, if you go to the debt register, which there's an office and there should be a portal, that you should be able to find all of the answers to the questions that you ask.
Nobody in Kenya knows how much we owe and who we owe. Even the Auditor General.
Or if Kenya owes, actually.
No, we definitely owe. All right? Who do we owe? We don't know all of them. Because what Uhuru did, and that is why your headline today, Stop the Blame Game and Work, is very cheeky. Because Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto are not different. William Ruto has been trying to show that he was in a government where he was not in control.
Yeah.
He knew everything that was happening and he approved everything that happened under the Uhuru administration. He borrowed this money together with Uhuru. They stole it together. And they will have to pay for it together. Henry, what was his second name? The
Rotich.
minister, the former Henry Rotich. Henry Rotich knows who we borrowed from, and even him, he does not know everybody who we borrowed from. So, what happened? When the Public Finance Management Act was amended by Cabinet to allow that you can go abroad, borrow money, deposit it in any accounts, is when Treasury and the Republic of Kenya lost its ability to know who we owe and for what we owe. Because the Constitution from Article 220 going forward is very clear in terms of what you can borrow for.
Yes.
But once Uhuru and Ruto amended the PFM Act to allow agents, any individual of government, to go out there and borrow money from a bank here, a lender there, and deposit it in any accounts out there. We actually do not know how much money we owe and who we owe. The Auditor General has said it, that she does not know who we actually owe, because Treasury is being presented with bills that this money is due paid, this money is due paid, this money is due paid. But it is money that was borrowed outside the Constitution, and it is money that was actually stolen by individuals who deposited it in accounts, made interest on it, actually sold it again to government. There are incidences where somebody borrowed money and then lend it to government and earned interest
on it. And Kenya's got to pay it back.
And Kenya has to two people to pay.
Yeah.
The one who resold the money to government, and the one we borrowed from. And all of it was actually borrowed outside the law and outside the constitution. So this is what we call treasonable charges that will have to be opened against these individuals under the Uhuru Kenyatta administration and under the William Ruto administration. It's treason because you operated and acted against the sovereign interest of the Republic of Kenya, and you have destroyed the foundation of our economy. We can't create jobs for our young people. We can't reproduce. We can't keep the costs of electricity or anything down. And the corruption that has gone on under the Uhuru and the Ruto administration is so ugly that it has to be investigated. That's why we have been recommending a forensic examination by an agency headed by the Auditor General of the Republic of Kenya to get to the bottom, because that's what the Constitution says. It's the Auditor General who can undertake this forensic or audit. But the executive cannot allow the Auditor General to do that.
Cyprian, we talk about the law being specific on when you borrow, it goes to do what?
Yes.
We talk about 12.3 trillion shillings in this country. And this 12.3 trillion shillings, one would say...
That was in March. It could be much more now.
Yes. Sure. If you walk in this country today, you should be able to see 12.3 trillion shillings. Exactly. We should not be having problems funding our education, our healthcare, security. We should not be having such problems. And you talk about... opening this fund to a point where even the Auditor General can't tell the debt that we have in the country today. One asks the question then, why does it seem as if the government of the day, the law, is a suggestion?
Because it is. Because it is. And that takes you to the pillar number one of our 4 Ds of reviewing the state of the nation. I summarized it that if your economy is in the state of distress, as ours is, regardless of the bandages that are being placed on it, your other 3 pillars will not hold. So the democratic faithfulness, which is pillar number 1, is in shreds, is in shambles, has collapsed. That pillar has collapsed. That is why the William Ruto administration cannot allow Kenyans to exercise their democratic rights, even of assembly, even of petitioning his government. The police in this country have been given orders not to allow people to demonstrate, not to allow people to assemble, not to allow people to question government. Why? Because if you question this government and expose the rot, if Parliament was to exercise it, is all institutions, let me summarize it this way so that we use our time here judiciously. All institutions of the state and society are dysfunctional. What do I mean by that? The judiciary in this republic cannot guarantee justice. The parliament in this country is not performing any of its 3 principal roles of oversight, of representing the people. Parliament in Kenya does not represent the people of Kenya. And the parliament makes bad laws. That's the only thing they do. We pay them to make bad law that is against the national interest. Whether you're talking about the police, the commissions, the independent officers, all institutions in Kenya are dysfunctional. The president and the executive cannot allow any of the institutions to do its job. Because if any of them did their job, the first person they will arrest and jail is the president. The president has violated the constitution since he was sworn in 38 times. 38 times.
And you've gone to look at
times.
each and every
That's
one of
our
these
work.
incidences
That's
where
our
this
work.
has happened.
That's our work. We actually filed a case in court in 2024. When I came here in 2024, I explained
Yes, you did.
what the case. That time we had 31 infractions, 31 violations of the Constitution. This has continued. You've even seen a president who holds UDA rallies and meetings in State House against Article 131 of the Constitution. And nobody's asking him, nobody asks him why he's using a state office for political party functions, spending money in millions to pay thousands of shillings to delegates from Kirinyaga and Kisii and Mombasa and I don't know where.
And this is not a political affiliation issue. What you're saying here is that this is a constitutional mandate that is
The Constitution
being
in
flouted.
Article 131 lists the 10 functions of the president. One of them is not to hold political party functions in State House. That is not one of the functions of the head of state. The head of state can be a member of a political party and he can conduct his political party affairs outside government offices, gazetted state offices and state, so we are basically operating outside the Constitution. That is the short answer, that because the economy is in disarray, and the Kenyans are desperate for any handouts, they are not even asking, where are you getting this money that you are paying us every week for us to come to State House in buses? Where do you get that kind of money from? Has UDA accounts been published for us to see that that money is from UDA? None of that money is coming from UDA, and the president cannot account. But it is our money that is being used to entertain political party activists, UDA political party activists in State House using taxpayers' money against the Constitution in Article 10, and nobody is raising these questions with the president. So the Constitution is technically disregarded and suspended. That is why no chapter of the Constitution, from chapter 1 to chapter 15, none of those chapters is being upheld. Is actually observed in breach. All the chapters are observed in breach. That is the short answer. And that tells you that our institutions, once they have been captured and they are being misused, then devolution, which is the third pillar, has collapsed. I want to become the governor of Nairobi, but I actually know the state of devolution in this country. And when I look at the people who are talking about devolution, they know that devolution cannot survive if democratic faithfulness does not happen and if the economy does not thrive. So those are the things that you start with. And finally, the demographic wellness. I listed 8 sectors of our demography which are in distress. You've seen that if we start from children, in fact, the demographic discussion starts from how many mothers are dying when they are giving birth. But there are more than 10,000 children in this country who have disappeared.
In a year.
In a
half.
year.
Yeah.
10,000. What about the state of our youth? The state of our youth is red, is in distress. What about our workers? What about our women? What about our persons with disabilities? What about our elderly? What about the state of marriages and families? And this is where you really wonder why the church is quiet, why the civil society is not focusing on the state of our demographic wellness. So when you look at these 4 Ds, you have to come to the conclusion that we are on the track to a failed state. But because there are elections next year, The discussion is not about the state of the nation. The discussion is about who is able to rig the election next year and come back or get power. So it is a power discussion instead of a welfare and survival discussion. So it's a state of the nation that is in distress, in confusion, and illegitimacy, suffering illegitimacy, but we are not talking about the state of the nation. We are talking about who is able to grab power next year. We are completely sick. That's how you know that people have been traumatized for so long. They no longer can talk about their welfare. The only relief and what people are discussing is about which Arsenal team has won which cup in wherever. The Super Bowl and how it was in America.
Seems like that's an outlet for frustration, though.
Exactly. And that is what, in political science, if you do not want a revolution, give them the circuses and give them food.
That's
give them
how
bread and
Hollywood,
circuses.
that's how Hollywood was created, let's be honest. Because they did that to take away the attention of the people from what was really happening in terms of governance. But what I'm hearing you say, and if we need to look at it, one of the things that you mentioned is that this political slogans that we're hearing, one term, two term, no term, whatever the case may be, also seems like an outlet. It seems like an outlet to avoid the difficult yet necessary job of fixing the problem. Because if we talk about, sky-high debt, we talk about systems that don't function, we're talking about, lack of funds to then follow these functions. And not because they wouldn't ordinarily be available, but because they have been diverted somewhere else where they should not have gone. Now, as you list all of these things, there's often the accusation, and this has come from political circles as well, that surely it's not everything about government that is bad. It's not everything that has to have a negative tint to it. There must be something that you then must be able to celebrate. Does that divert our attention from what is really going wrong, whereby you need to then say, no, you don't get to escape by asking people to be positive? What you must do with the responsibility that you have been given is to ensure that you leave it better than you found it. How do you play between those?
This is very important, the question now you've asked. There is no constitutional obligation on me to say the positive things that government is doing.
Yeah.
I've read I was one of the makers of our constitution, and so I know there is no obligation on me or any Kenyan to praise their government. In fact, patriotism, which is a national value in Article 10, means that you are loyal to your country, not to your government.
Yeah.
So anybody who is asking us to say the things that government is doing very well or whatever is missing the point, because that's not our obligation.
Yeah.
Our loyalty is to our country, not to the government. The government is of employees who have actually used our tools to browbeat us, kill us, jail us, take us through very, very difficult do everything that is unconstitutional. So my response to that is to say this. President William Ruto operates what we call Machiavellian politics. In Machiavelli said that you better be feared than be loved. Yeah. So what William Ruto wants is to be feared, not to be loved. But Machiavelli also says it will be better if you have both. You are feared, but you are also loved.
Yeah.
And so how he uses that is to use brute force. You remember his mambo matatu?
Yeah.
Use brute force, intimidate the population, scare people, instill fear, and then use our taxes to go around with the Nyota Fund and distribute money and goodies, and so that you are loved at the same time. So that people do not actually have a discussion about how you are acting against national interest. So national interest is the only thing that we are concerned about. Our national interests begin with sovereignty of our nation. Recently, Macron was here. The president is the chief agent in undermining our sovereignty instead of securing it. So let us continue to remind Kenyans that the state of the nation is checked through the 4 Ds. If you are going to ask the question, it is how well has the administration developed our democratic credentials. And the democratic credentials we are doing very badly. Out of 10, I would give this government 3, because the violations, the intimidation, the way protesters are being taken to Kahawa and charged for terrorism, this has never been done before, where demonstrators are charged with terrorism. This is actually ugly. It is ugly. What we are seeing right now is actually unbelievable, where people cannot be helped to do meetings. You've seen tear gas in churches. Even Moi didn't do that. I remember Moi doing it at All Saints Cathedral, and the whole country united in saying, this is sacrilegious. You can't do this. Now it has come back in force, in full force. We are seeing that people are not even safe to worship in churches. And that's dangerous. Our economy is not doing well, under development. Devolution is in shambles, and our demographic wellness is in distress. That's the word I have used. The state of the nation is in distress. And I've listed these 8 categories of our demography, and we'll go from the time children are born, how those children are cared for. A country cannot secure its children. It's a failed state. It's a failed state. A country that cannot secure its children. What does it have an army for if it cannot secure its own children? Organ harvesting that is happening in this country. We know it. This city mortuary here reports every 3 months 300 unclaimed bodies of dead Kenyans. We don't know who they are. What country are we in? If we cannot secure our children, we can't even identify who has died in our mortuaries. You saw what was happening in Kericho, that there were 100 bodies in Nyamira that were buried in Kericho.
Still unexplained.
Yes.
Unexplained deaths everywhere. So I don't know. Let it be Kenyans who actually judge where you place William Ruto's administration as regards these 4 pillars of the state of the nation.
And Cyprian, of everything you talk about directly goes back or falls back to politics that you play in the country
and
for
governance.
A very long time. Yes. Politics has been said to be a very dirty game. I don't want to get involved in it. But then again, look at what that gives birth to. When you talk about governance, decisions, respect of rule of law, securing its children, protecting sovereignty of the country, it all boils back to politics and quality of individuals that we put in there. So now as we approach 2027 and Kenyans want to put new people or return these individuals in there, what kind of discussion or conversations must Kenyans want today if we are to address the subject of debt, if we to address the subject of security and sovereignty of the country? Because seemingly Kenyans cannot afford to stay outside politics if things are to change.
That's a very important question, what you've raised. And this is my suggestion, all Kenyans of goodwill towards 2027 must decide, first of all, to hold democratic, free and fair elections. And how do you hold democratic, free and fair elections? Ensure that everybody registers as a voter and everybody turns up as a voter on election day. Ensure that you vote only for women and men who are going to secure your national interest around these 4 pillars: demographic wellness, democratic faithfulness, development, consolidation, and devolution and participation. Now, the Bible tells us in Matthew chapter 8 that a good fruit, a good tree cannot bear bad fruit.
Bad fruit.
And a bad tree cannot bear good fruit. So if you vote for bad people, they cannot give you good fruit. What we are experiencing right now is the bad fruit of the bad trees that we voted for. And that is why people in this election must approach this election differently. We cannot be excited about parties and about ethnic entities and what we are being presented for here. We have to be radical, and we have to be very, very radical. And I want to call upon Kenyans to approach the 2027 election looking at those two things. One, register and be there to vote. Number two, vote for the good trees.
And you know, can we be honest? That if
we know
who they are.
There's nobody. Even when Gashawa says that Ruto cheated us, and then we found ourselves that we have elected him, he said, no, Gashawa is not being sincere.
They knew.
We know these people, all of them. We know them. So let nobody lie. When people are there, acting as goons, they are not confused about this. Cannot be a good leader who's using us as goons. No, we know actually that we are the ones who are facilitating these people to destroy our country. So the only thing you have to do now, which is what we are doing as Kenya Bora, is that we are supporting candidates. That's how they are supporting me to be governor of Nairobi. That's how we have to support men and women of integrity and credibility to run for office. Because if we are all, the good people are going to stay away and say this thing is so dirty. So the people will only have a choice of electing one of the worst criminals on the ballot. So we have to offer Kenyans good men and women on the ballot. That's the first thing we have to do. So my rallying call is that good men like Maraga and the others and women, we need to come together and hold this national convention. And I have been speaking to Professor Kivutha Kibwana, the former governor of Makueni, and you hosted him here recently.
Yeah.
And he's actually hearing what we are requesting. We need somebody and people who can convene us to have a sober conversation in terms of how we are going to ensure that we hold credible election to elect credible men and women to office and then hold them accountable so that the 4 Ds, the 4 pillars of our nation can be replenished, can be repaired. So that is my recommendation. First of all, let the good men and women come forward. Here in Nairobi, we are actually going to, I said this the last time I was here, we are going to raise money to support good men and women as MCAs, especially young men and women. As MCAs, as MPs, we are going to force some people. I have been speaking to Faith Odhiambo, the former president of LSK. We want her to run as the Senate of Nairobi. We will pay for the bill for her to become the Senate of Nairobi. If we can't get to the place where Americans got to pay money for Obama to run and win, we are not serious about our country. We have to come to a place where we actually approach good individuals like Faith Odhiambo. You drive to our office and say, Madam, we know you are not interested in this politics. But if we made you Senator of Nairobi, we know for sure that you will be a good senator.
So what you're talking about here is that there has to be something radical that is done
Completely
to sort out.
radical.
Because if we talk about the state of the nation, which is where we started,
Yes.
being in distress,
Yes.
what you need to do is have something radical that is going to sort out the issue.
If you don't do that, you are not going to change a thing. Don't wait for people to offer themselves as candidates. Offer them as candidates. If you are supporting Sifuna and you are supporting wherever, send money to the number so that he can have money to run rallies. And I'm very happy because I've been working with them. And one of the activities, I actually saw Kenyans sending in 2.6 million to the account, which is what they are using to do the rallies. That is very important.
Yeah.
So we have to come to a place 2027 where we are going to be the ones to list the men and women we want in office. In your county, we have 47 counties. Don't wait for people to offer themselves. Call them and say, it is you, madam, we want to run. Do we want you to run for this office? And we are going to pay for it. And you know, people think that you need all the 400 million shillings, all the 30 million shillings at the same time. No. Let people send in 150 shillings and 80 shillings and 200 shillings. That is how somebody, the kitty runs. Form committees. Let these people not be the ones collecting the money. Form your committee and raise money. And run candidates. The people who are supporting me in Nairobi are funding my campaign. They are funding my campaign. They are sending money so that I can fuel vehicles and hold meetings. We have to come to the place where we are not waiting for people to offer themselves as candidates. We are going to approach them. I've given you the example of Nairobi. I declared myself the patron, and I have been doing it. In July, on Sabasaba, it will be a Friday, we are going to hold a meeting at Ufungamano of all the candidates from all the wards and parliamentary areas. And we are telling them, we are not looking at how much money you have. The money we are going to give you, we will fund the campaign. We want you to step forward and sign this charter, that once you are in office, these are the things you will do for us as Nairobians. And I want this replicated across the country. That's the only way we are going to make a difference in this country. We cannot be passive and expect that things
Somebody
are going
else
to
is gonna do
change.
it.
Yeah.
We have to take responsibility for it.
I mean, Cyprian, let's go straight into it. I live in this county, and I'm going to tell you the truth. Nairobi is a mess. This is what Trump would call that whole thing, you know. This is what Trump would call it, you know. You want to get into this county as the leader. What are some of the immediate fixes that must happen for Nairobi to reclaim its position?
So people look at Nairobi's mess. I look at Nairobi's opportunities. Every time I've come here, I've talked about the opportunities that Nairobi has. Nairobi is probably the only city in the Southern Hemisphere with the opportunities that no other city has. And we happen as Kenya to be on the eastern gate of Africa. So the problems of Nairobi are very small. Nairobi has only lacked a mother and a father. Parents, people we call them stewards. If you elected me and I was in that office, I'll do 3 things in the first 3 days, and everything in Nairobi will change. Do what you need in that office once you arrive there is to cut all the 8 cartels. We know them, we've researched, we've documented, we know who the cartels are and why Nairobi can't function. Nairobi can't function because if it functions, the cartels will not be banking and raking in the millions. So the day you cut out cartels, and that's the first thing you have to do. How do you manage to cut out the cartels? By ensuring that the cartels do not fund your campaign. That is why I'm telling Nairobians, if you want change, finance the election of your governor. And a governor that you funded will go to that office without any
Baggage.
obligation to the cartels.
To get his or her money back.
Because they will be saying, excuse me, our money back through this contract, this garbage contract, this road contract, this contract. In Nairobi, it is the MCAs who are doing the roads. Nairobi is in shambles because it's the MCAs who are doing the roads, the contracts. And you know why they are given the roads? So that they do not impeach the governor. So that's how the cartels work. So every MCA has cartels, has people who have to be given contracts, whether you like it or not. Otherwise, we sack you. Otherwise, we impeach you. So how you go in matters how you function when you are in there. I think I've answered your question. The 10 areas of delivery are very public. We've published them over and over again. The 10 areas of delivery are very public. We will deliver once you've stopped the leakage of the funds and increased the money from 22 billion collections on source revenue to 63, which is our target. Within 2 years, you increase that money and you get from government about 25, national government. If you add 63 plus 25, you are practically at 90 billion, 88 billion going to 90 billion. With 90 billion, you transform this city and you increase business and wealth. Nairobi is the easiest place to change. Is the easiest place to change. You don't have any single problem. You just need to change the model, how you collect garbage. Not through contractors, but by the decentralized. I can talk about it the whole day because it's the clearest area in terms of what can be done from day one to transform the lives of the people.
What confuses it is all the middlemen who are doing the business here.
They can't allow you to deliver because they will run out of money.
So what does it look like then? Because we can do a minute or two, Cyprian. What does it look like? Because that's one of the things that often say, well, we can talk about a negative output. We can talk about how it looks terrible, but then if you were to change it, what does it look like? We've been told, people have stood on steps and said, the first thing I'm going to do is get rid of the cartels. You've mentioned 8 of them.
Yes.
How do you do that?
Is how you get in.
Yeah.
If your strategy of campaign is not like mine, of organizing 85 ward committees and ensuring that every residential area has a committee, the People's Committee for delivery, for service delivery. How then are you going to help South Sea with its drainage issues and all that? So how you come in is what tells us that you are actually going to be able to deliver. If it is not the people who are putting you in office, but it is the cartels that are funding your campaign, like they have funded the previous 3 governors, you cannot deliver. So how you come in is what matters most. And how we have organized the campaign is that it is the people who are going to fund it, and number 2, they are the ones who are going to install the committees that secure the vote and put you in office. If the MCAs do not pass the budgets and the plans, you just go to the 85 committees and you say, let us dissolve this government because it is not being allowed to deliver. So the MCAs are the ones that must, they are like Mujahideen. They are actually equal to Al-Shabaab. They are suicide terrorists. These MCAs. MCAs are the problem. They are the ones the cartels use to ensure that the governor does not function. And nobody talks about it. So we have to talk about it. The only way to deal with cartels is establish the People's Committees, and we are doing it through the Nairobi People's Convention.
Cyprian Nyamwamu is the convener of Kenya Bora Twitter. Kyle, is also Nairobi gubernatorial aspirant, and has said there are ways to fix it.
Yes.
He said the state of the nation is one of distress, but that too has a way to be fixed.
We have to give people hope every single day that there are people who are able to take this country to the next level. Kenya's situation can be turned around within a month.
It can be done.
It can be done. Even the odious debt, we can fix it within 30 days. All of it audited and repaid. We can free this country within 30 days if we change the leadership of William Ruto, if we change the leadership of Sakaja. Because these are not leaders, they are dealers. Thank you very much.
And that's where we ended at 8:05. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.